Universal has come a long way over the years, creating some of the most amazing attractions out there. With Epic Universe coming next year, they're in a great position to truly compete with Disney. But Universal in recent years has made some questionable choices, and in this series, I want to look at some of the most disappointing attractions Universal has in their parks currently. With that being said, let's look at the star of today's video, Skull Island Reign of Kong. Now, before getting started, I do want to state that the opinions shared in this video are my own and not definitive viewpoints. If you enjoy any of the attractions I discuss in these videos, that's perfectly fine, and I'd love to hear about your experiences in the comments down below. Instead of following my usual format for these attraction-based videos, I'll simply discuss the attraction itself, its story and ride experience, as well as its theming and exterior facade. This can include the surrounding area if it's applicable. And finally, I'll discuss why I feel the attraction is overall disappointing. In one of my previous videos, I covered the original King Kong attraction offered at Universal Studios Florida, that being Kongfrontation, and stated that I wanted to visit this attraction in the near future. With that being said, Skull Island Reign of Kong would open at Universal's Islands of Adventure on July 13, 2016, and was based on the tram tour portion from the Hollywood Studios attraction. The story isn't very structured, but essentially guests board an expedition truck with one of 5 animatronic drivers. They meet up with another expedition team, and a member of that team named Kate, who acts as somewhat of a main character for this attraction, is picked up by a creature called a Pteropus Mordax. From there, the attraction becomes more action-oriented, and guests make their way into a swamp where Kate escapes the Pteropus Mordax, only to become surrounded by various large bugs and the worms guests saw earlier in the queue. She begins shooting at them as she tries to escape, but before she can, she's grabbed by a claw of a creature called a Deplector. The truck makes its way into the jungle, where it's chased by a pack of Ventosauruses. As the truck tries to make its escape, it runs into 3 Ventosaurus Rexes, and before they can begin damaging the truck, Kong shows up, and a fight ensues between the Rexes and Kong. After some intense fighting, Kong rescues the truck, and it drives off, where guests will witness a Kong animatronic head. Afterwards, guests make their way back to base camp, hearing Kate over the radio stating she's safe.
Kate, you're alive! I know. Hard to believe.
When looking at Skull Island Reign of Kong, it isn't inherently a bad attraction. And I think basing it on the 2005 Peter Jackson film was a great idea. However, this attraction is questionable in a sense that, much like Fast and Furious Supercharged, what is the point of taking a small section of the tram tour from Hollywood and bloating it into a full attraction? It simply comes off as lazy, and to get a better sense of this attraction, I want to discuss both its positives and negatives, pointing out the aspects I think are well done, but ultimately where I feel the attraction falls short. Starting with the positives for Skull Island Reign of Kong, I want to focus on its theming, as I think it is Skull Island's strongest feature. If we start outside the attraction, we can see that the entire facade presented is alluring, from the Kong cave-shaped entrance to the jungle-filled backdrop and surrounding flora, as well as the ability to see expedition trucks entering that large gate. It really has a way of pulling you in and wanting you to experience the attraction. Basing it on the 2005 Peter Jackson film was definitely the right move, as there's a lot of material that helps convey that ominous feeling that the movie presented. This is evident not only outside the attraction, but in the queue as well. And I have to say before we get into the queue that honestly, Skull Island Reign of Kong has one of the best queues in Islands of Adventure. As we make our way into the queue, one thing that stands out to me are the animatronics, the Shamaness and Worm most notably, but also the Pteropus Mordax that's presented early on in the ride itself. These, in conjunction with the claustrophobic cave hallways that are filled with skulls and bones, scattered expedition gear, and atmospheric lighting, really sets a dark, foreboding tone. Another highlight within the queue is the scare actors, both the digital and live actors. As for the digital, there are small holes located along the walls that, when guests look into them, tribesmen appear, and live actors positioned halfway through, dressed as tribesmen who jump out at guests. I felt this really sold the queue experience and helped it stand out among other queues in the park, as well as even scaring me half to death the first time. Moving into the actual ride experience, this is where the positives diminish. There are only two positives I have, which are the unique animatronic drivers with 5 different variants, and the large animatronic Kong head located at the end of the ride. I think having different animatronic drivers with varying backgrounds and personalities helps with re-rideability, and the giant Kong animatronic is very impressive, reminiscent to me of Kongfrontation. However, this is where the positives end, and I'll now get into the many negatives this ride has. Alright, this is what you all clicked on the video for, so let's dive into the negatives of Skull Island Reign of Kong. Starting outside the attraction's entrance, a big issue is how Universal made the Kong section of Islands of Adventure incredibly small. If you're not paying close attention, you could walk right through it, as Universal decided to squeeze it between Toon Lagoon and Jurassic Park, making it feel awkwardly positioned. I say that because it ends up blending in with Jurassic Park instead of standing out, mainly due to the similar flora between the two sections. The attraction's entrance is the only standout feature of Kong's area, which makes it hard for the attraction to feel like it has its own unique land. Another disappointment is that even though I love seeing the ride vehicles enter that large gate, as much as many others, I know that Universal recently stopped using the outdoor section of the ride. Instead, they're utilizing the section meant for inclement weather, which allows those ride vehicles to enter the cave directly. While this may not seem like a big deal, removing this element detracts from the experience, as you'll see in this clip here.
This is Base. Kalana, are you en route with the replacements and supplies for Team 2? Yes, Kenny. We are on the way. Listen, my people speak. But there will be no sacrifice today. We hope. Now would be a good time to put on your goggles and stay alert.
Additionally, they've also stopped using live scare actors in the queue. At least the last few times I've ridden them, I have not seen them at all, but these small details help make the attraction memorable, and stripping them away only hurts the overall experience. Speaking of which, let's move on to the attraction experience. Comparing it to the Hollywood Tram Tour version, the Orlando version is longer and features additional scenes. While that sounds positive, it's also problematic. See, with Kongfrontation, they did a similar thing, but it worked because each attraction felt distinct, allowing guests to appreciate them individually. Here, however, the addition of a few scenes doesn't really differentiate it enough. It makes the attraction feel like an extended version of what already existed. Another issue is that Skull Island relies heavily on screens, and unfortunately, so much so do other Universal attractions. This doesn't help, especially with Fast and Furious Supercharged offering almost the exact same ride experience with a different theme, but more on that in another video. The attraction itself feels lazy, not just for leaning into another screen-based format, but also because of its lackluster story, which feels thrown together at the last minute. The set pieces feel inconsistent, and once guests leave that cave, it all becomes a high-octane action movie, which contrasts heavily with the darker, more ominous tone of the queue. It would have made much more sense for Universal to create a deeper, more immersive story involving the tribesmen, bugs, dinosaurs, worms, and Kong himself, like an eerie expedition. Instead, they opted for an action-packed sequence, and on top of it all, they've removed the 3D glasses since the attraction opened in 2016, which has only made this feel more like a downgrade. Looking at Skull Island Reign of Kong, it's clear the creative team behind the queue did an amazing job. But simply porting over the Hollywood Tram Tour section with additional scenes was a lazy attempt at trying to sell guests on a new attraction. Instead, a lot of people can easily see the attraction for what it really is, and I feel a lot of frustration could have been avoided if Universal had put more effort into the ride itself. Instead, what we get is another screen-based attraction that has issues constantly. I've had times riding it where the entire raptor chase scene has blacked out and the screens went down, but the audio was still playing. The attraction also suffers from a major tonal shift after its queue, as the queue presents itself as intense and even scary, but that feeling is immediately thrown away once guests make it onto the ride portion. This only adds to guest frustration, and while not all guests feel this way, overall I feel this was a poor choice from Universal. But the attraction still holds decent popularity and wait times, so I don't think it'll be going anywhere anytime soon. Now, I do want to state that while there are a lot of frustrations that I have with this attraction, I still ride it from time to time. If the wait times aren't ridiculous, I'll go on it, because honestly, the queue alone is fantastic and I love going through it every single time. Thank you guys for watching the video, and if you enjoy this series, comment down below with an attraction you'd like to see, as it could appear in one of my upcoming videos. And if you want to see more content like this, or theme park content in general, don't forget to like and subscribe, as it really helps a lot, and it lets me know how much you enjoy this type of content. With that being said, until next time, I'll see you guys in the next video.